Let me share my screen. Okay. So guys, we will continue our session from where we stopped yesterday. And then we will finish off this slide deck. And also afterwards, we will go to the MCQ section. So I will give you some pointers regarding MCQs as well, and some commonly tested knowledge and some approach that you can use at your examination, right? So as I recall, guys, if I remember correct, yesterday, in the target question discussion, we covered the first few sections, right? So we did the percentage-based computation. We got the calculation of the loan installment. We did the profit maximization question as well. So we have to start from question number 4 today, right? So let's go to question number 4, right? So guys, this is about the calculation of mean, mode, and the media, right? So one moment, there's a message in the chat. So how can I get the yesterday's recording? Just it will be made available through YouTube, and you will be getting the link as well for that, right? So not to worry. Both the sessions today and yesterday, you will be able to view it later on as well. Okay. Right. So calculation of mean, mode, and media. Amputa, remember, as I briefed you yesterday, in computations for group frequency distributions and ungroup frequency distributions, there are two main types of computations that you need to know, right? The two main types are, right, when it comes to calculations, right? There are two main types. Number one is measures of central tendency. Measures of central tendency. Let's call it MOCT, right? So all these computations here, mean, mode, and the media, these three are measures of central tendency, right? What that means is if you take a distribution, or then distribution එකක් ගත්තොත් මෙහෙම, let me find some space here, right? Distribution එකේ පුතා මේ center එක ගැන computations නැත්නම් මේ center එක indicate කරන matrices තමයි මේ mean, mode, and median කියලා කියන්නේ. right? Data set එකක මැද center point එකට අදාළ computations තමයි measures of central tendency කියන්නේ. So in terms of computations under measures of central tendency, these three you should be aware of, right? Then there's another type of computation that is measures of what? Measures of dispersion, right? Visirima, පැතිරීම, dispersion, right? So what is dispersion? So in the literal sense, dispersion means the spread, right? How the data set has been spread from the lowest values to the highest values, right? So in this particular diagram, in the bottom of your screen, you will see the dispersion would be from the center point, how much this has spread across, right? So what are the measures of dispersion that you have learned in the class? You have standard deviation, variance, coefficient of variation. Likewise, you must have learned certain measures of dispersion as well, right? So this is the full gamut of computations that can be tested in the exam. Computations, right? This is under syllabus. But out of this, the most commonly tested type of calculation is the measures of central tendency. You must have seen in the previous past paper in July 2023, if you look at the past paper, they have asked you to compute two of these, mean, mode, and median. Out of those three measures of central tendency, they have tested two of those, right? So you can expect something similar in your exam as well, right? So in this photo, now you can see under the measures of central tendency now, there are two types. This I briefed you yesterday as well. I will just refresh your memory, right? So when it comes to the types of data distributions, you have ungrouped frequency distributions and something called the group frequency distributions. So over here, this letter UFG and GFB, this differentiation should be in your mind, right? Ungrouped frequency distribution is a data set where the where the x values, right, are fixed value, right? කියන්නේ නිශ්චිත වටිනාකමක් වගේ x column එකේ තියෙනවා. That is the ungrouped frequency distribution, right? So for example, if you go to this question, මේ question එකේ තියෙන මේ data set එක ඔයාලා ගත්තොත් පුතේ මේ x column එකේ තියෙන මේ fixed amounts නේද? 0 1 2 3 4. It has a fixed amount, right? So definitely this distribution, this frequency distribution is what? This is the ungrouped frequency distribution, right? So that's how you identify this, right? So in contrast, what would a group frequency distribution look like? Group frequency distribution at Kyanubuta, if I go to the past paper, I will show you. Okay, last time past paper ke dila තියෙන මේ question එක බලන්න. නේ. මෙතන තියෙන මේ data set එක ගත්තොත් question number 4 එක sorry, not this, but question number 4, question number 5. See over here, if you consider this table, the age is not given as a fixed amount. Fixed number එකක් විදියට දීලා නැහැනේ. මෙතන තියෙනවා මොනවද? Class intervals. It has class intervals to show certain demarcators within your data set, right? දැන් මෙතන fixed amount එකක් නැතුව පන්ති ප්‍රාන්තර නැත්නම් class intervals දීලා තියෙනවා. Those sort of distributions we call it as what? We call it as group frequency distributions, right? So when it comes to the computation of mean, median, mode, or standard deviation, variation for that matter, right? First of all, you need to understand what type of data set you are dealing with, right? So that's why in your slides, you will see the slides may ungrouped frequency distributions, right? Group frequency distributions, right? Make computations to the I have given it separately for these two categories, right? So I hope this is clear for you guys, right? This is just a snapshot, right? So some of these formulas will be made available for you in the exam paper as well, right? If you go to the formula sheet, some of this stuff you will be able to get it from there. And if there's anything missing, those sort of formulas you will have to by heart, of course, right? So now, in the example that I'm doing here, this practice question, you would see it is very clear that we are dealing with the ungrouped frequency distribution, right? So මේ ungrouped frequency distribution එකේ අපි හදමු mean, mode, and the media, right? So these three we will try to compute now, right? It's very easy, just to refresh your memory, right? Okay, so these are the formulas we will have to use, right? Now comes the question. Then we established that we are dealing with the ungrouped frequency distribution, right? But there are only two formulas here. Then මේ පළවෙනි column එක ගත්තොත්, the column under ungrouped frequency distribution, you have a formula for the mean, but you don't have a formula for the mode. This is a blank, right? But for the media, there is a formula. Fine. So what is this issue about the mean? Sorry, mode. මොකටද mode එකට formula එකක් අපි දීලා නැත්තේ? Because it's not required. When you look at the ungrouped frequency distribution, purely based on the frequency, you can identify the mode. මාතේ කියන එක ඔයාට බොහොම ලේසියෙන් identify කරන්න පුළුවන් without any formula, right? So that's the logic behind having two formulas to compute three matrices, okay? Right. Now moving on to the question. First, let's try to compute the mean. මේ පළවෙනි mean කියන එක අපි හදන්න බලමු. So to compute that, our formula is sigma fx divided by sigma f, right? So first, what we will do is, we will add a new column here. In this new column, you can write fx, right? Fx stands for f multiplied by x, right? එතකොට මේ x column එක, මේ පළවෙනි column එකේ තියෙන numbers මේ දෙවෙනි column එකේ multiply කරන්නයි ඕනේ, right? So simply 0 multiplied by 5 is 0, 1 multiplied by 10 is 10, then 2 multiplied by 8 is 16, right? Sorry, this looks like 16 again. Moment. Okay. Right? 3 multiplied by 5 is 15, 4 multiplied by 2 is 8, right? So we add a new column called fx, right? So what does sigma stands for? Then our formula එකට ගියොත් ඔයාගේ numerator එකේ තියෙන sigma fx කියලා එකක්. It's not just fx, it is sigma fx. So what is sigma? Sigma is the total, right? So if you take the total of this column fx, fx column में को total करो, how much do you get? 10 plus 16 is 26. 26 plus 15. 41. 41 plus 8 is 49. Right? So this total පුතා මේ 49 කියන total එකට අපි කියනවා sigma fx. That means the total of fx column. Right? So if you compute the mean now, x bar is sigma fx divided by sigma f, right? So sigma fx is 49. Now this has to be divided by sigma f. So you don't have to have additional column for this because the frequency f is given to us already, right? Number of days is f, right? So you have to add this now. So 15 plus 8 is 23, 23 plus, uh, 15, 23, 25, 30, right? Yeah. So this is sigma f, right? The total of f column is sigma f. So sigma f, the denominator would be 30, right? So we will get a rough answer. That is how much? It will be 49 divided by 30. It will be 1.63 approximately, right? So that is that. Okay. So this is how you do it for a ungrouped frequency distribution, right? Okay. Then the next computation, now mean එක හරි. Mode එක හදන්නේ කොහොමද? Mode එක පුතා, mode means මාත් ඒවා සිංහලෙන් O levels කරාන. You might remember a computation back in the day called මාතය, right? මාතය කියන්නේ mode එක. Mode is the number which repeats the most in your data set, right? මේ data set එක ඔයා කියුවොත් units බිඳුවක් සෙල් කරපු දවස් 5ක් තියෙනවා. There are 5 days where you solve 0 units, right? There are 10 days where you solved 1 unit each, right? There are 8 days where you solve 2 units each. So likewise, what is the number of units, the most common number of units that has been solved? There will be 1, right? මේක තමයි ඔයාගේ mode එක. වැඩිම වාර ගන්න repeat වෙන number එක මොකක්ද කියන එක. ඒකේව 10ක් තියෙනවනේ මෙතන, right? Because there's a frequency of 10, right? So you don't need a formula for the second one. So for the answer for the mode is pretty easy. It is 1, straight ahead, right? Then the median, right? The median කියන එක හදන්න ඔයාලට formula එකක් දීලා තියෙනවා n plus 1 divided by 2 th term. That means that particular term, right? So n plus 1 divided by 2 th term, right? So now let me clear this. I will clear this screen. Okay. So our formula is for the median, right? N plus 1 divided by 2 th term. A1 padya, right? Okay. N means the number of terms. How many numbers are there in your data set? So the aggregate of this would be, we already computed. අපි sigma f කියන එක ගත්තනේ පුතා 30 කියලා, right? So 30 plus 1 divided by 2, right? So you are getting 15.5 term. 15.5 term, right? 15.5 වෙනි පදය. But this is not your final answer, right? So this is 15.5 term. That means simply think like this. If you just how do I say, sort the data in the ascending order. පොඩිම number එකේ ඉඳන් ලොකුම number එකට එනකම් ඔයා මේ numbers 30 පිළිවෙලට දාගෙන ගියොත් මොනවාද numbers 30ක් තියෙන්නේ මෙතන? මොනවාද numbers 30? බිංදුව ඒවා තියෙනවා 5ක්. එතකොට මුලින්ම දානවා බිංදුව 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 5යි, right? ඊට පස්සේ තියෙනවා එකේවා 10ක්. ඊට පස්සේ 1 1 1 1. ඔය විදිහට ඔයා sort කරොත් ඔයාගේ data set එක, if you sort the whole thing, the 30 numbers that you have with you, the number which is at the 15.5th place, 15.5 කියන point එකට ඔයා ගියොත් එතන තියෙන number එක, that number is your media, right? මධ්‍යස්ථය, right? ඒකේ data set එකේ හරි මැද, හරි center එක තමයි අපි මේ හොයන්න හදන්නේ, right? So in that case, how do you identify this 15.5th term, right? So you can do something called the cumulative frequency here, right? So you can say cumulative frequency. Okay. So cumulative frequencies, you are going to add these frequencies as you go along. Like, see what I'm going to do here. මුලින්ම මම මේ 5යි 10 එකතු කරලා 15 කියලා ලියන. right? මුලින්ම 5 ලියනවා. ඊට පස්සේ 5ට 10ක් එකතු කරලා මම 15 කියලා ලියනවා. ඊට පස්සේ මේ 15ට 8ක් එකතු කරලා මම ලියනවා 23. 23 වලට 5 add කරාම I'm getting 28. 28 plus 2 is 30, right? So this is the cumulative frequency that I have taken, right? So guys, where would be 15.5 term, right? Again, following numbers පහ, if you read here, if you read this data set, following numbers පහේ තියෙන බිඳුව. ඊට පස්සේ එක ඒවා තියෙනවා 10ක්. නේ? එතකොට now you are arriving at the 15 term. ආ 15 වෙනි පදයට වෙනකන් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. But you have to go a step beyond that. Your median is not 15. It is the 15.5 term. 15.5ක් තියෙනවා. තව ඉස්සරහට යන්න එපා. එතකොට එකට පස්සේ ඊළඟට නම් දෙක මොකක්ද වගේ sequence එකේ? දෙක, right? So there was a 15.5 term, you can assume it as 2, right? එතකොට වගේ data set එක sort කරාම 15.5 කියන point එකේ තියෙන්නේ දෙකේ එකක්, right? 2 units have been solved on that particular day. That is what you need to take, right? So the answer here is, this is not the final answer. 15.5 is not the final answer. The median is 2 units, right? So that is that. Okay. I hope this is clear. One moment. There was a message in the chat. Sir, I was self-studying for the A-level. Now I feel a bit high. Is it better to try next time without sitting for the exam? Okay, you are doing self-study. Puta, it's like this. If you did self-study, it's fine. You must have taken your own approach to do these computations, right? So what I have done, I would suggest you to watch yesterday's session as well. So with that, I think you can get some confidence regarding sitting for the exam, because AAT level 1, you can predict or forecast what are the questions that they are asking to a greater degree, right? So අර මුළු syllabus එකම පාඩම් කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ මේක pass වෙන්න, right? So yesterday, the people who attended yesterday's session know exactly what needs to be studied to get through, right? So it's a very limited scope, right? මුළු කොහොම syllabus එකම බලන්න ඕනේ. That would be required if you are going for a prize or a pass like that, right? But there are very intrinsic areas that you need to know, right? So a set එක බලන් ගියත් ඔයාලට ඇති, right? So I would suggest you to watch yesterday's session as well once the recording is available. With that, you can decide whether you can make it work or not, right? I would suggest you can make it work because you have more than 1 month still, right? Will this be uploaded in YouTube? Yes, I believe so. The last time session was also uploaded in YouTube, so I would guess it would be uploaded as well. You can check with JMC management. Okay, right. So this is how you do it for the ungrouped frequency distribution, right? So if I go back to the past paper question, right? So this particular question එකේ පුතා වගේ ඇහුවේ මොකද්ද? Median එකයි mean එකයි, right? Calculate the following age of workers, median and the mean. But again, you cannot use the formulas that I just used, because the frequency distribution here is what? It's a group frequency distribution. පන්ති ප්‍රාන්තර තියෙන එකනේ. එහෙනම් මෙතන median එකයි mean එකයි compute කරන්න, you have to use these two formulas. This one and this one. These are the two formulas you will have to use, right? So since they checked this last time, you can assume safely that they will again check group frequency distribution as well, right? So be familiar with these 3 computations for sure for your exam, right? So I would expect computations from these 3 categories, right? So be familiar with this. If you can't remember how you work this out, or if my computation doesn't make sense to you, please rewatch the videos, go back to your notes, and you can refresh your knowledge. Okay. Right. So now the next question that I wanted to discuss with you is derived in the least square regression line. This LSRL stands for least square regression line. Okay, so that is what we are going to discuss now, right? So Bhuta, this question, right? The question that I'm doing now is going to be tested as it is in your examination, right? With different numbers. Numbers වෙනස් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි මේ concept එක least square regression line කියන එක it is a given in your exam. If you take any past paper, you will find this question definitely. The computation of y equals a plus bx formula, right? So it's pretty easy. If you know this, 10 marks guaranteed, right? So I will refresh your memory about this section as well, right? So with the least square regression line, where did you come across this? I will just remind you the theory aspect of this. When you are having a data set, let's say X and Y, if you put this into a scatter plot diagram, you remember scatter plot diagram में data set එකක් දැම්මොත් හරි මේ data set එකේ dots වලින් ගොඩක් connect වෙන විදිහට හරි නැත්නම් dots ළඟින් යන විදිහට හරි ඔයා arbitrary line එක සාධාරණ රේඛාවක් ඇන්දොත් මේ වගේ, right? This arbitrary line මේ සාධාරණ රේඛාවට අපි කියනවා මොකද්ද? You call it the regression line. මෙයාට අපි කියනවා regression line. Just don't mind my writing. Okay, I hope it is legible. So this particular arbitrary line that you draw is called the regression line. Okay, මේකට සිංහලෙන් කියන ප්‍රතිපායන රේඛාව කියලා, right? Okay, so this regression line, Buddha, there are two ways to develop it, right? So to develop this arbitrary line, regression line, there are two ways to do this, right? First one is the freehand method. Let me call it FHM, freehand method, right? Freehand method කියලා කියන්නේ පුතා ඔයා නිකම් ඔයාට හිතෙන විදිහට as you see fit, right? Based on your judgment, you are drawing this regression line. Then mami screen එකේ regression line එකක් ඇඳ නේද? I drew something on the screen, right? So this is based on which method? This is based on the freehand method. I literally use my hand to draw this out, correct? Right? So this freehand method is one way of developing the regression line, right? Because as you can see, guys, there's no way the examiner can test freehand method in your exam, right? Or exam එකේ freehand method එක check කරන්න බෑ ඒගොල්ලන්ට. Why is that? The answer script, you can't put up a correct solution for that, right? Because this is literally freehand. කියන්නේ මං අදින regression line එක නෙමෙයි එතකොට ඔයා අඳින්නේ. Because you see it in a different way, right? It's arbitrary, it's judgmental, right? You draw it in a certain way. Maybe someone can draw this like this, right? Another person can draw it like this. So we can't use freehand method to get a proper, accurate regression line, right? So that's the drawback. So to navigate away or alleviate from this drawback, what did they develop? They developed something called the least square regression line, right? So මේ least square regression line එකට method එකට regression line එක මේ arbitrary line එක අඳින question එක තමයි exam එකේ හැම වෙලේම check කරන්නේ. They always ask about this least square regression line method, right? So I hope you got a rough background as to how this is coming about, right? This is just a refresh of the theory aspect, right? So we will now see how to develop this regression line. මේ regression line එකේ function එක කොහොමද අපි හදාගන්නේ using this least square regression line method. Okay, right. So now let me clear this up to get some space. Okay, so now Puta, this is it. The function of the regression line is assumed to be y equals a plus bx, right? Now listen very carefully. Y equals a plus bx is the formula of a straight line. සරල රේඛාවක සමීකරණයක් තමයි y equals a plus bx කියලා කියන්නේ, right? So if you remember, මම දැන් අර කලින් යන්නේ මෙහෙම line එකක්. මේක straight line එකක් නේද පුතේ මේ මම යන්නේ. I drew a straight line, right? So in your O-level days, in your O-level studies, you must have studied this for sure. Probably you didn't study something called y equals a plus bx, but you must have studied y equals mx plus c. ඔහොම එකක් ඉගෙන ගත්ත නේද අපි? Right? You must remember this, right? So y equals mx plus c is the same thing as y equals a plus bx. මේකම තමයි මේ. Right? වෙනසක් නැහැ. It's the same thing. The only difference is පුතා, you see here, මේ functions දෙකේ, sorry. මේ functions දෙකේ difference වෙන්නේ කලින් වා c කියලා ඉගෙන ගත්ත එක දැන් අපි term කරනවා යාව a කියලා. Right? So c intercept that you studied in your previous O-level studies, we call it as a now, right? M is now b, right? That's the only thing. It's just a rebranding, right? C වෙනුවට a කියන letter එක දාලා දෙනවා. M වෙනුවට slope එක වෙනුවට අපි දානවා මොකද්ද? B කියලා letter එකක්. That's it. It is literally the same formula that you guys studied previously, right? So it's not a new thing. Okay. Now, just refresh your memory. Or straight line එක formula එකක් හදාදී. When you are developing the formula of a straight line, what did you do? Let's say y equals mx plus c, for example. Then make a class එක ඉගෙන ගත්තා. Y equals mx plus c කියන එක ඉගෙන ගත්තා. What are the two coordinates? So what are the two attributes that you solve? මේ m කියන එකයි c කියන එකයි නේද ඔයා විසඳුවේ. These are the two things that you solve, right? So for example, if I say y equals 5x plus 10, this is a proper formula of a straight line. Am I correct? Right? එතකොට අපි කරේ ඔක විසඳනවා කියලාද? By implying that we are solving this straight line. මේ straight line එක derive කරනවා නැත්නම් solve කරනවා කියලා අපි කරේ මොකද්ද? You simply assign numbers to m and c. මේ දෙකටනේ numbers දැම්මේනේ. Similarly, if you are going to solve this now, y equals a plus bx, what are the two things that you need to solve? A and b. ඔය දෙකට numbers දෙකක් දාගන්න ඕනේ. That's what you are supposed to do. If you do that, that means you have a proper formula for a straight line. Am I clear? එහෙම නේද වෙන්න ඕනේ මේකෙන්. Okay, right? So m and c, instead of solving m and c, we are going to solve a and b, right? So to solve a and b, you have two very specific formulas. This is given in your exam paper as well. මේක මෙහෙමම ආගේ exam paper එකෙත් ඔයාලට හම්බෙනවා, right? So using these two formulas, you can compute a and b. Simple as that, right? So ඔයාලේ exam එකේ කිව්වොත් least square regression line එක develop කරන්න කියලා. If someone asks you to develop the least square regression line, your first step should be you should be solving this a and b. A and b කියන formulas දෙක solve කරන්නයි ඕන, right? So let's take a practice question and see how this can be developed, right? මේක හදන විදිය අපි practice question එකකින් බලමු, right? So let me clear the ink on this, or maybe we will just straight ahead go to the question. Okay. This is the question. Deriving the least square regression line, y equals a plus bx. Okay. So from this particular table, Puta, now we are supposed to develop the least square regression line. Okay. Right. So to solve this, let me add two columns here. That would make our life much easier. Right. I can draw this using that drawing tool, but doesn't look very nice. I think this would be better. Right. And then මම කරේ පුතා මෙතන මම add කරගත්තා අලුතෙන් columns දෙකකුයි. තව පල්ලෙහාට වෙන total එක හදාගන්න I added another section like this. Okay. So I added two extra columns. Okay. So in these two extra columns, Puta, now I'm going to write x squared and xy, right? Or additional columns දෙකක් දාගන්නවා x squared and xy කියලා, right? So now in your data set, you need to understand what is x and y, right? මොකද්ද මේ data set එකේ x කියන්නේ සහ y කියන්නේ, right? What are these two variables, right? So now the question is, does your profit depend on the sales units? Or profit එක sales units මත depend වෙනවද? නැත්නම් වාගේ sales units profit එක මත depend වෙනවද? Which way does it work? the more you sell, the more units you sell, the more profit you will make. Am I clear? Right? Or වැඩිපුර sell කරන profit එක වැඩි වෙනවා නේ. So what depends on what? Your profit depends on the sales units, right? So that means මේකේ මොකක්ද එතකොට x? X column එක වෙන්නේ. What is the independent variable? X is the sales units. This is x. Your profit dependent variable will be the profit, right? So that way you can simply identify what is my independent variable and what is my dependent variable, your x and y, right? So okay, identify කරාට පස්සේ guys, now you can fill up this table, right? So you can also work it on your own with your calculators, right? So let me also work it out. දැන් මේ x squared කියලා කියන්නේ මේ x column එකේ තියෙන numbers ටික square කරන්නයි තියෙන්නේ. You have to square all this, right? So square of 1 is 1, square of 2 is 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 56. Sorry. Yes. So x and y, you will have 50. This is 110. Sorry, this is the last number is 8 to the power 2. That is 64, right? 2 multiplied by 55 is 110. Then this is 180, right? This is 280, I guess. You got that guys, huh? 75, 300, 375, right? Okay. 16 to 85. 16 to 85 is 510. Then 7 into 90 is 630. 8 into 95, that is 760, right? 760, okay. So I guess these are your numbers, okay? Right. So now, Putta, what you are supposed to do is, you are supposed to add all these columns. Okay? Columns of or total you are supposed to take the totals of all these, right? So what are your answers? 1 plus 2 plus 3. You can simply compute it. 3, 6, 10, 15, 21, 28. 28 plus 8 is, I think, 36. පළවෙනි column එකේ total එක 36 නේ. දෙවෙනි column එකේ total එක 50 plus 55 plus 60 plus 70 plus 75 plus 85 plus 90 plus 95. You get 580 here. Then දෙනවා 581 නේ. හරි. ඊට පස්සේ x squared column එකේ total කරොත් 1 plus 4 plus 9 plus 16 plus 25, 36, 49, and 64. Right? You got 204, 204. Last column, xy, 50 plus 110 plus 180 plus 280, 375, 510, 630, and 760. 2895. Okay, right. So these are the totals, Putta. Right? මේ ටික තමයි ආට එන totals ටික. Just double check whether these numbers are correct. Huh? Let me try to get these numbers from the cal as well. One moment. I'm just double checking whether these numbers are correct. Huh? Oh. 50, 55, 70, 75, 85, 90, 90. Okay. Sigma x is 36. Sigma xy is 2895. Let me double check sigma x squared as well. Sigma x squared is 204. Okay, great, cool. I think we are good to go, right? So if you are done with this, Puta, now you can just go to the computation of A and B. Then අපි මේ මොකද්ද කරන්න හදන්නේ? What we are trying to do is we are trying to compute these two functions separately. මෙතන A and B කියන එක තමයි මේ compute කරන්න හදන්නේ, right? Okay. Yeah, I just got the confirmation that this is correct. Okay, cool. So let's go to the computation. Okay. So our totals are correct, right? So before we go to the totals, Fuda, I want to explain to you something. It's probably you guys know, but I will just explain again. You are supposed to give names to all these totals. My blue color highlight again my numbers 36, 580, 204, and 2895. So for all these totals, you are supposed to say or give assign names. The names are denoted by sigma. Sigma in a Greek letter. The meaning is total, right? So this 36 Buddha, it is what? It's the total of the x column, right? So meaginama sigma x. 580. 580 is the total of the y column. That means this is sigma y, right? 204. Moke total x squared total. That means this is sigma x squared, correct? Then xy column के total 2895, you can call it as sigma xy. So these are the computations that are required for you to compute A and B. Or A and B formulas දෙකේ තියෙන unknowns ටික තමයි අපි මේ හදාගත්තේ. These are the unknowns that you are supposed to assign in that equation. Okay, right. So now let's go to the answers. I have just put up the formulas directly here. So I can just write up the answer here, right? So first we will start off with B. B කියන එක තමයි මුලින්ම හදන්න. Again, there's a method for this, right? Can you compute A without computing B? මේ A කියන formula එක බලන්න පුතා. මේ A කියන formula එක හදද්දි in this one, you can see B here. මේ මෙතන B කියන එක තියෙනවා නේද? Right? So without computing B, you cannot compute A. So what should be computed first? B. B එක හදලා තමයි A එක හදන්නේ. That should be kept in your mind, right? Okay, so that is out of our way. You know what needs to be done here. So now I'm going to compute B first. Then B එක මම මුලින්ම හදලා ඉවර කරනවා, right? නා මෙහෙම එක හදා, right? So N is the number of terms. මේ ගානේ rows කොච්චරක් තියෙනවද? How many rows of data do you have? What I mean is this. The numbers කීයක් තියෙනවද? Rows කීයක් තියෙනවද? 8ක් තියෙනවා නේ. There are 8 rows of data. So this 8 is N, the number of terms, right? So I'm going to write 8 here, multiplied by sigma xy. Sigma xy puta is here. Sigma xy is 2895. 2895 minus, sorry, 2895, sigma x is 36. 36 multiplied by sigma y is 580. 580 divided by n sigma x squared. Okay, n sigma x squared. N is 8. Sigma x squared. X squared again sigma key element in 204 kilogatti. Sigma x squared is 204. Okay. Minus sigma x square, right? Puta, this is sigma x brackets and a square, right? This part. See? Check this out. Make a hungakka varad the මෙතන තියෙන මේක කියවන්නේ පුතා sigma x කියන එකේ squared එක කියලා. The square of sigma x. It is not sigma x squared. So you need to understand the difference between these two, right? මුලින්ම sigma x squared තියෙනවා 204 දැම්මනේ total එක. But if you are supposed to take the square of sigma x, you have to write sigma x here. Sigma x can this side. Sigma x can this the total of x column, right? Of that, you are supposed to take the square. So keep that in your mind. There is a place where you guys tend to make a mistake. Okay, right. So if you simplify this now, 8 multiplied by 2895, 23,160 minus 36 into 580, 20,880, right? Divided by 8 into 204 minus 36 squared, 336. Let's see how much do we get. 23,160 minus 20,880 divided by 336. We are getting 6.786. Let's say, right? If I'm getting a number like this, let me double check whether this is correct. Yeah, 6.786 rounded off to 3 decimal places. Okay, this is B. All right. Now with this, you can compute A පුතා. දැන් මේක හැදුවට පස්සේ ඔයාලට A කියන එක හදන්න පුළුවන්, right? So how to do that? A equals, this is B, A equals sigma y. Sigma y is how much? 580 divided by n. N is how much? N is 8. පද සංඛ්‍යා 8යිනේ නේ. Minus B is 6.786, right? And make a මෙතෙන්ට ගන්නවා. This previous answer, this has to come here. See that? That's the connection, right? මෙතෙන්ට දාලා 6.786 multiplied by sigma x is 36 divided by 8. Okay, so let's simplify this now. You are getting 41.964. 41.964. Let me just double check this answer. 580 divided by 8. 580 divided by 8 minus 6.786 multiplied by 36 divided by 8. 964, let's say 963, right? Maybe 963 kilogram. Don't bother about the rounding off. Let it be 963, 964, that is fine, right? So this is that, right? I hope you guys also got the same answer. එතකොට ඔය විදිහට ඔයාලට ඒ coordinates දෙක හදා ගන්න පුළුවන්, right? So this is not your final answer. You are supposed to develop the least square regression line. ඒ කියන්නේ අර y equals a plus bx කියන එකේ දැන් මේක ඔයා assign කරන්න ඕන මේ ආපු answers දෙක, right? Y equals a is what? A is 41.963 plus b is 6.786 x, right? ඔන්න ඔය විදිහට ඔයාගේ final answer එක තියන්න. This is your final answer. So that's how you need to do this. This and this. ඔය දෙක හදා ගන්නයි ඕන. Formulas දෙක දාන්න. This and this. Right? Hope this is clear, guys. Okay, cool. I think you guys all got it, right? So these are like freebies in your exam. And this is not rocket science, huh? It's so easy. Why do I say so easy? Because this is given to you in the exam. Make a formula එක ඔයාලට ගෙඩිය පිටින්ම දෙන exam එකේ. ඉන්නකො පෙන්නන්න ඔයාලට. Check this out. You have the formula here. See? In ඔයාගේ formula එක. There's a slight difference here, Puta, in the A formula. See? This is y bar minus bx bar, right? So what is y bar? Y bar means sigma x divided by a. Sorry, sigma y divided by a. මෙතන wait. And I'm talking about this. Within මෙතන තියෙන sigma y divided by n එක sigma x divided by n, right? So this actually you can call it as, right? Sigma y divided by n, sigma x divided by n කියන මේ දෙකට වාට කියන්න පුළුවන්. This is y bar, this is x bar. So that's the difference, right? දැන් ඕකත් exam එකේ මතක තියාගෙන යන්න ඕන. හරිද? මොකද y bar කියන එක අපි කොහෙවත් මෙතන තියෙන numbers වලින් හොයන්න බෑනේ. Y bar means sigma y divided by n. X bar is sigma x divided by n. That part you will have to remember, right? Because in the paper it is given like this, right? So you have this formula with you, right? You have a calculator as well, or an exam, you have this in your hand. So it's just a matter of multiplying, adding the thing and putting it into the correct place, right? So getting 10 marks for this, is it tricky? Of course not, right? If you do a couple of sums and go to the exam, these are like definite marks for you, right? So you can see a very similar question last time as well. If I go to that question, go ahead. Now, question number 4. See, a sample of 8 patients were examined regarding their age and blood sugar level. The data are summarized in the following table. Fill table X and Y column set, right? You are required to identify the d-square regression line divided by y equals a plus bx to represent the relationship between the age of the patient and the blood sugar level, right? That's 7 marks, right? With 7 marks, right? That's the logic. That's how you do this, right? The next part, you see, calculate the expected blood sugar level of the patient if the age is 72, right? So that is the forecasting part, right? Right? හිතන්න මේ question එකේ පුතා requirement number 2 එකක් තිබ්බා කියලා. Assume there was a requirement number 2 here, right? Let's say මේ question එකේ part 2 එකේ තියෙනවා forecast the sales units, forecast the profit if 9,000 units were sold. මොකද දැන් මේ කියන්නේ අපිට පාඩ කියනවා මේකේ requirement number 2 එක විදිහට forecast the profit if 9,000 units were sold, right? So that is what they want you to do, right? දැන් ඔබ හොයන්නේ කොහොමද? This is the type of question that they had asked, right? So check this out. මේක හදන්නේ මෙහෙමයි දැන්. Let me clear out some of these totals just to show you, right? Okay. This you have already done. Okay. Right. අපිට කියනවා forecast the profit. Profit එක forecast කරන්නලු units 9000ක් sell කරොත්. පුතේ sales units කියන එක වාගේ thousands වලින් නේ තියෙන්නේ නේ කොහොමද? ඔය කියන්නේ එහෙනම් මේ බලන්න මේ x column එකේ 9 කියන එක ලිව්වොත් මෙන්න මෙතෙන්ට එන්න ඕන answer එක නේද ඔය අහන්නේ? Am I right? Sales units 9ක් නම් profit එක කීයක් වෙන්න ඕනද? How much should your profit be? Isn't that what they are asking? That is what they are asking, right? So how to compute this now? Very easy. How? What you need to do is ආගේ අර formula එක ගේන්න දැන්. Y equals a plus bx formula එක මොකද්ද? Y equals 41.963 plus 6.786x. ඕකනේ formula එක. මේකේ වාගේ x වෙනුවට දැන් මේ x value එකක් නෙමෙයි 9 කියන්නේ නේ. x වෙනුවට 9 කියන එක දාන්න. කියන්නේ 41.963 plus 6.786. Instead of x, I am writing 9. Then you will get a y value. Y කියලා answer එකක් එනවා නේද? What is y? Y is your profit. මෙතන profit එක නේද y කියලා කියන්නේ. Right? එතකොට ඕනම x level එකකදී y value එක ඔයාලට මේ formula එකෙන් හොයන්න පුළුවන්. I hope I made my case clear, right? So what would be your final answer for a question like this? So let's see. 6.786, right? Multiplied by 9 plus 41.963. You're getting 103.037, right? So this is your final answer, right? එතකොට ඔයාගෙන් sales units 9000කට නෙමෙයි 10000 11000 ලක්ෂ ඕන ගාණක් දැම්මොත් ඒකට අදාළ profit එක, the corresponding profit you can compute using this formula, right? So that's what you are supposed to do, right? So it's the same, very similar type of a question. So once you develop the least square regression line to that, you can easily do a forecasting based on that. You have to just substitute the corresponding x or the y value and take the answer for the other variable, right? So that is how this is done. So any questions in this part? Do you have any doubts? Okay. You can straight away ask, huh? Don't feel shy. You are here to ask questions, right? Okay. Right. Yes, there's nothing. All right, cool. Mm-hmm. All right, so we have everything is clear, all good. Right. So this is 10 marks, huh? Guaranteed in your exam. So make a question and this will help you out for sure. Right. All right, good. Let's move on then. Everything is clear. Right. I will clear these screens now. Now, expected value computation, right? So this Puta is coming from the probability. Expected value probability. Probability topic making, right? Good news is the examiner last time did not check the expected value computation for whatever the reason, right? So he asked probability questions, of course, but not the expected value, right? So this is the main key, or how do I say, one of his favorites missing in the exam paper, right? So this time around, just make sure you know this computation, the expected value. There's a higher probability that they can check the expected value this time, right? So it's a very simple concept, expected value, right? So you can simply compute the expected value of a data set using this formula. The formula use expected value right? So before we get into the computations and the explanations, I will give you a background about this. The table, the table that you can see on this slide, there's a technical name for this. The technical name is probability distribution. Probability distribution, right? What exam table එකක් දුන්නොත් events සුයි probabilities සුයි columns දෙකක් තියෙනවා, right? If you see a table in your exam paper which has a certain outcome, whether it be a profit, a sale, whatever, a certain outcome, and the corresponding probabilities side by side on a table, there's a good chance that is a probability distribution. A probability distribution එකක් වීමේ ලොකු chance එකක් තියෙනවා, right? So just to confirm whether you are dealing with a probability distribution, you can do a very small test. What is test එකක් කරලා බලන්න පුළුවන්. මොකක්ද test එක? ඔයා බලන්න මේ probability කියන column එක පල්ලෙහාට add කරොත්. If you add this probability column, you should get the answer of what? 1. මේක හරියටම එකකට balance වෙන්න ඕන. එහෙනම් balance වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් මේ probability distribution එකේ there is some omission. මොකක් හරි event එකක් missing, right? Make a hurrier complete probability distribution you should tally up to 1, right? Let's see whether this tallies up to 1. Tallies up to 1, right? Yes, it tallies up to 1, right? So if you are dealing with a probability distribution, Puta, your sigma p, the total of your probability should be 1, right? So that you have established now. Then clear, make a probability distribution here, right? So based on probability distributions, there are a whole magnitude of computations that you can do. Probability distribution based karagan, there are many computations that you can do. We have discussed several in our class, right? Out of those computations also, one of the examiner's favorites is this expected value. This can be an MCQ, very easy, right? So how to compute the expected value of this probability distribution? It is sigma x multiplied by p, right? So now I will add the table. It would not look very pretty, but let me try. Okay, right. So I am going to name this column as XP, right? XP. That is X multiplied by P. मैं column देखा multiply करना है थी, right? So profit negative 100 multiplied by 0.1. That would be negative 10. और एक bracket calculate है ना negative निसा, right? 10 into 0.35. That would be 3.5, right? 50 into 0.1. That would be 5. 100 into 0.25. That would be 25. 200 into 0.2. This would be 40. Correct. So simply you are multiplying your events by their probability, right? So then you have to add this. You are supposed to add the whole thing. The total here is sigma xp, right? Or sigma x multiplied by p. Same meaning, huh? Sigma x multiplied by p can sigma xp can. Both these are the same thing, right? So the answer here, the total here would be how much? 65, 70, right? 73.5 minus 10, that would be 63.5, I guess, right? Okay. You are getting 63.5, right? So this is your expected profit. Apekshita profit figure. Your expected profit is equal to 63.5 of this data set. All right. I hope that is easily understood, right? So another thing I want to explain. Why did I call this expected profit? Because I am computing this based on profitability, right? මෙතන මේ X column එකේ තියෙන්නේ පුතා මේ බලන්න. මෙතන දැන් මම compute කරපු එකේ sorry undo that. මෙතන තියෙන්නේ fit එක නේද? See? If you compute the expected value of the profit, you can call it as what? Expected profit, right? තේරෙනවද? එතකොට ඔයාලා මෙතන හිතන්න මේ profit එක වෙනුවට තිබ්බා කියලා හිතන්න sales මෙතන මේ profit කියන වචනේ වෙනුවට හිතන්නකො sales කියලා තිබ්බා කියලා. එතකොට ඔයා මේ කරන computation එක මේ 63.5 එකට answer එක විදිහට ඔයාලට මොකක්ද ලියන්න පුළුවන්? It's not expected profit now, it is expected sale, right? හිතන්න මෙතන profit එක වෙනුවට තිබ්බ වෙන තව මොකක් හරි අපි හිතමු cost එක කියලා. Let's say this was cost. It was cost, right? So the answer 63.3, you can call it as what? Expected cost, right? So අපි class එකේ ඉගෙනගෙන යනවා expected value කියලා, right? අපි දැන් class එකේ උගන්වලා යනවා expected value හදන්න මෙහෙමයි කියලා. exam එකේ අහනවා මොකද? Expected revenue, right? So they will curse me. This bugger taught us how to do the expected value, but not the expected revenue, right? It's the same concept, right? You don't have to worry. So based on the data set that you are computing the expected value for, you can assign it a fancier term, right? A more specific, a more objective name for that answer, right? Can be expected profit, expected loss, expected cost, you name it, whatever expected value, right? At the end of the day, all this is expected value, right? So I hope that is clear. Then, since you guys are not asking any big questions, I am going to answer these myself. I am asking questions from myself and answering now, right? So there can be another question. What is that? අපි දැන් මේක මම clear කරනවා. This answer is okay නේ, right? I'm clearing this. Imagine the examiner gives you a data set like this. Or a data set එකක් දෙනවා මෙහෙම. Let's say uh, this is the probability distribution, right? Uh, let's say result and the probability, right? Let's say result is A pass, B pass, and C pass. Let's say probability is 0.5, 0.3, and 0.2. ඔයාලට මේ වගේ probability distribution එකක් දුන්නා කියලා හිතමු exam එකේ, right? So there are three results that you can get from this examination. You can get either a A pass, B pass, or a C pass. Let's say these are the only available results that you can get. ඔය තුනෙන් එකක් එන්න, right? So we established this is a probability distribution. Make it events කීපයක probability එක නෙදීලා තියෙන්නේ, right? And the total of this column tallies up to what? Tallies up to 1. මේක එකට match වෙනවානේ. Sigma p. The total of your probabilities is 1 again. This is also a probability distribution, no? මෙන්න මේ වගේ එකක්ම තමයි මේක, right? It's the same. But we have a problem now. What is the problem? මේ රතු පාටින් මම දාපු this red color table, can you use this data set to compute an expected value or an expected result? හොයන්න පුළුවන්ද? හොයන්න අමාරුයි නේ. මොකද මේකට දැන් අපි XP කියලා column එකක් දැම්මද? Assume you put a XP column here just for the fun of it, right? So can you do this multiplication? A into 0.5. A pass එක 0.5න් වැඩි කරලා අපි කියනවා 0.5A කියලා. Doesn't make sense, right? So to compute expected values or any computation for that matter, based on probability distributions, you have to make sure your outcomes, your X values are numerical figures, right? Make column එකේ තියෙනවා numerical figures. නැත්නම් ඔයාලට මේ මුකුත් හදන්න බෑ, right? මෙතන numerical figures තියෙනවානේ. All these are numbers, right? එතකොට ඔයාලට multiply කරලා answer එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි මේ වගේ data set එක in a probability distribution like this, in your X column, you don't have numbers. You have some letters, some outputs, results, right? Anything which is not a number, right? You cannot use such a probability distribution to compute an expected value. Just keep those things in mind, the basics, right? Okay. So you can, I would assume, examiner can take something like this for a simple MCQ, or it can be in part C as well as a writing question, right? Possible. Now, let's move on to the next question. Any doubts so far, guys? Make a මොනහරි issues තියෙනවද ඔයගොල්ලන්ට? Any further clarifications needed? I guess not. Okay. Right. Cool. Let's move on. All right. Cool. Let's move on, guys. Next one is Laspier's pricing LPI. Okay. This is also one of your index numbers discussions, right? So just to refresh your memory before you go to the question, computation, right? What are the three types of index numbers? What are the index numbers? පාඩමේ අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තේ. Index numbers. How many index numbers are there? Classifications. You have price indexes. You have quantity indexes. Then you have value indexes, right? So these three broader categories can also be classified into 5 sub-elements. මේක තව 5කට කැඩෙනවා. කැලි 5කට, right? 5 each. So approximately there are some subvariants as well. If you take the whole thing, you end up with approximately 15 to 16 different types of index numbers. Index numbers in our puthe 15-16ක් විතර. There are many, right? So even out of these, the examiner has fallen in love with a particular index. What is that? The Laspers and Parsh price index and the quantity index, right? So that is your key focus area in your index numbers discussion. That doesn't mean that the examiner cannot test the other ones, right? සාමාන්‍ය ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහනවා නම් if they are asking a bigger question, a writing question specifically, they tend to lean towards what? They tend to lean towards Laspers and Parsh price index, or it can be the quantity index as well, right? So ඒක හොඳට ඔයා ඔළුවට දාගෙන practice කරලා යන්න ඕන, right? There can be question from other index numbers as well, right? So if I show you in the past paper, මම මේ question එකත් හදන්න මේකේ තියෙනවා MCQ එක remember where was it? There we go. This question 1.7, see? The price relative of the brand C fertilizer considered in 2021 as the base year to the nearest integer is, right? So this is not Laspers or Parsh price index. This is the price relative, right? Price relative කියන්නේ ඔයාගේ SPI එක. Simple price index එක තමයි මේ අහලා තියෙන්නේ. Product C එකේ, right? So they can check everything. They have the right to check everything, but if they're asking a big question, this is MCQ, right? ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක්. Part B හරි C හරි කොටස් වල අහනවා නම් it would be Laspers or Parsh price index for the most part, right? So with this background, with this understanding, now let's refresh our memory about the Laspers price index. Okay. CDF table එක use කරන්නේ මොනවටද sir? This was something that we discussed yesterday with the CDF table එක අපි use කරේ අපේ දෙවෙනි question එක හදන්න. මෙන්න මේක හදන්න. This one, right? To compute the installment of the loans, right? And also you can use it for project appraisal questions as well, right? So in this particular presentation, in my target question discussion, we use CDF table. මේ table එක use කරේ to get the answer for the CDF. මෙන්න මේ පල්ලෙහා denominator එක හදාගන්න තමයි CDF table එක use කරේ, right? Hope that is clear. Probably you missed yesterday's session to that. If so, just rewatch it. We use this table to get this answer, right? Okay. Now going down. Yeah, we were here. Now let's work this out. Then we make a harder, right? Laspers price index can be computed based on the following formula. Then my formula ka dena ada exam make it. Yep, they will give this in your exam, right? So this formula you can be used to calculate the Laspers price index. So to compute the Laspers price index, Putha, let me add a few columns here as well. Right, so this is the answer. So I would need right, it's okay. So I have added 2 extra columns, right? Right, now let me go to the presentation mode. Okay, right, now let's fill this up. Okay, first column you would have to take what, right? Sigma P1 multiplied by P0, sigma P0 into Q0, right? So this is the key term. P1 into Q0. මේක තමයි උඩ තට්ටුවේ තියෙන්නේ. යට තට්ටුවේ තියෙනවා denominator එකේ තියෙනවා P0 into Q0. Right? This is this, right? මේක මෙයා, right? And you have the sigma. Right? That's how it has worked out, right? So I have to add these 2 columns. When the columns දෙක තමයි මම දැන් හදන්න ඕන මෙතන, right? What is the first one? P1 into Q0, right? So I'm writing here P1 into Q0, right? Then what's next? P0 into Q0 in your denominator. You have P0 into Q0. So I'm saying P0 into Q0. ඔන්න ඔය විදිහට ඔය formula එක identify කරාට පස්සේ guys you can include that as two new columns. Okay. Now based on this given data puta, you have to identify what is P1, what is Q0, what is P0 and what is Q0. This we have discussed at length in our class. අපි class එකේ ඔබ ගොඩක් ඉගෙන ගත්තා how to make this distinction, right? So first you have to isolate the two price columns and two quantity columns, right? දැන් මෙතන තියෙනවා price columns දෙකකුයි quantity columns දෙකකුයි. You have price in 2010 and price in 2023. Okay, price තියෙන columns දෙක, right? So out of these two පුතා, what would be the base year? මොකක්ද ඔයාගේ base year එක? Your base year is always the year which comes previously. කලින් එන අවුරුද්ද. අවුරුදු දෙකක් ඔයා comparative ගත්තොත් කලින් එන අවුරුද්ද තමයි base year එක. පස්සේ එන අවුරුද්ද තමයි current year එක විදිහට අපි assume කරන්නේ. Right? Let's say in this particular case 2010 and 2023. It comes earlier. 2010. That means that is the base year. Right? එහෙනම් ඔයාලට මෙතන දාන්න පුළුවන් price in 2010 is your base year. Base year again P0, right? 0 is the base year, right? Ehena, this is P1, right? Current year price, right? So they don't have to even tell you what the base year is. Ada අවුරුදු දෙකක් දුන්නහම මොකක්ද base එක මොකක්ද current year එක කියලා you should be able to tell it easily, right? Let's say another example. Let's take two other years, right? One is 2015, other one is 2018. 2015 and 18. What is the base year? 15. Current year is 2018, right? So it's easy. The examiner can tell you to use a certain year as the base. Even if they don't tell it to you, you should be able to identify this on your own, right? So these two are clear now, right? Price එකේ P0 and P1 අපි දැන් හොයාගත්තා. Then similarly, in the quantity also, you have 2010 quantity and 2023 quantity. Then over here, similarly, the base year quantity, the 10 quantity එක අපි කියනවා Q0 කියලා. This is Q1, right? This is clear. It should be easy for you, right? So now you have identified the 4 columns as well. Now it's just a matter of doing the multiplications, right? Now this is simple maths after that, right? P1 multiplied by Q0. මොනවද multiply කරන්න ඕන columns ටික? Firstly, for this, and මේකට මොකද්ද multiply කරන්න ඕන columns දෙක? It is P1 this and Q0 this. ඔය දෙකනේ multiply කරන්න ඕන. Just do the multiplication now. 10 into 1 is 10. 15 into 5 is 75, right? 6 into 10 is 60. 20 into 8 is 160, right? Okay. Now next, you have to do a similar multiplication for this one. P0, Q0. Where's P0 and Q0? This is P0. This is Q0. Wait again. Right. So 5 into 1 is 5. 50. 5 into 10. 2 into 10 is 20. 25 into 8 is 200. Okay. Now let's add all these up. Okay. Right. 10 plus 75 plus 60 plus 160. We are getting 305. Right. Then you have 55 plus 20 plus 200. You're getting 275. Okay. So now you can go back to your price index formula, right? Right? So here equals, is equal to sigma P1 into Q0. This is that. Sigma P1 Q0. Right? Then this is sigma P0 into Q0. This is that. Okay, right. So 305 to the top. 305 to the top. Palladena 275. 275 into 100. You're getting an answer of how much? 305 divided by 275 multiplied by 100. You're getting 110.9. 110.9. This is the Las Vegas price index. Okay. So this is something you can expect in the exam, a similar type of index, Las Vegas price index, Parsh price index. These are very interchangeable, very similar, right? So you can expect a question like this if they test index numbers in part number 2, that is sections B and C, written questions. All right. Any doubts on these questions, guys? These are straightforward stuff, but these are the types of things they ask in the exam, right? So nothing too major. Okay. All good. Okay. I guess everything is fine, right? Yeah. Nice. Yeah, good to go. All right. So we have covered, please show the last slide. Okay, Vita. I think you're referring to this side. Is that right? Okay. Yeah. Hmm. So you can be familiar with all these index numbers, right? Do some practice questions. Even if you run short of time to study all 16, these are the mandatory indexes, right? Laspiers and Parsh price index and quantity index. ඒටිකවත් බලාගෙන යන්න. That's the bare minimum. Okay. Highly testable. Okay. All right. Cool. Now let's go back to our target question summary. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have covered all the questions, the mock questions, right? For your part 2. අපි මෙච්චර වෙලාවක් කරේ MCQ නෙවෙයි. This has nothing to do with MCQs. This is all about section 2 of your paper, right? So do these questions. I am sure, just as we have done so in the past, you can score more than 50 marks if you are savvy with the approach that I am giving you, right? මම කියපු ඒ sections ටික බලාගෙන ගියොත් ඔයාලට පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕන, God willing, you should be able to score more than 50, right? For out of 60, මේ මුළු CM වල MCQ නැතුව 60 වාට 50කින් එහා ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි. Last time it was 57. That is a good result, right? So that approach please take, and also make sure you are not studying or emphasizing a lot on unnecessary areas. Unnecessary in the sense there's no unnecessary area per se in your syllabus. What I mean unnecessary is that the areas where the examiner is not really focusing, right? There's only so much so questions they can ask me to the, they can't check everything in the 3-hour paper, right? paper මුළු syllabus එකම අහන්න බෑනේ. So there are very intricate 4 areas that they want you to demonstrate knowledge. Knowledge එක තියනවාද කියලා බලන critical areas set එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒ ටික බලාගෙන යන්න, right? You can make this work very easily, right? So when we are doing these questions, you must have understood your weak points, right? The areas you are not very familiar with, not very confident, right? Mark this up, please. Make a study plan leading up to the examination. Allocate your time amongst the other subjects as well, and focus on those areas. So, for example, profit maximization question number 3 that we just did. If you could do it right now, the chances are that you will have that knowledge in the exam paper as well. Then exam right? If you know it, right? So you don't have to keep doing profit maximization point questions anymore, right? You know the thing, right? So if you know the thing, just leave it to the side. Just focus on the stuff you don't know, right? අර core areas වල දන්නේ නැති set එක pick කරලා දැන් පාඩම් කරන්න පටන් ගන්න. Not everything. Don't start from page 1 to page 300, right? So just focus on the stuff you don't know, and that way efficiently study, right? That's my only recommendation for you guys, right? But if there's any student who is going for the prize or 100 marks, right, in the paper, definitely you will have to study the whole thing, right? But anyways, that is doable. Huh? I expect you guys to come up with great results like that, A passes, maybe the prize as well, right? So allocate your time efficiently and focus on these key areas to make things work in your exam, right? So my discussion about part two, this detailed analysis of part two, I will make available these slides right away after this session is done today. So you would know what are the areas properly to study for your examinations, right? Now let's go to the MCQ area. I just want to give you some pointers, right? So as you guys remember, Pute, within an MCQ area in the paper structure, right? So we were only in this area, right? අපි හිටියේ තාම මෙන්න මේ section එක තමයි අපි මෙච්චරලා discuss කරේ. Section B එකේ අහන questions ටිකයි, section C එකේ අහන questions ටිකයි. This is where the core weight is, where you can do a lot of forecasting and analysis, right? Unfortunately, section A can be literally anything within your syllabus, right? So there was no way on earth anyone can say this is exactly what they will test in section A, right? They can pick things from different corners of your syllabus and bring in questions for section A, right? So for that, you will have to have a more versatile knowledge to attempt MCQ questions, right? Because there's no boundary. I would say section A is more dangerous than section B and C. You might think, MCQs are the easy stuff. Not really, because it's high risk. Why? If you get it wrong, there are no half marks, right? Answer 2 නම් 2 කියන්නේ දෙවනි selection එක නම් if you mark it as, if you underline 3, the third answer, you are not getting any marks, right? Whereas in section B and C, even if you do some write up, you might get half marks, right? If අන්තිම answer එක වැරදි වුණා, ඔයාගේ approach එක හරිනම් the examiner can be sort of lenient to you and give you some half marks, but not the case in section A, right? So it is high risk. So you have to have a better knowledge about the syllabus and all those intricate areas to attempt section A, right? So we will have a look at section A and see how this has worked out, right? I will go to the past paper quickly and give you a few pointers as well, right? So when you are starting this section, Buddha, make sure you have 40 marks, right? 40 marks means you can spend around how many minutes? 40 into 1.8. Let's give the number. 40 into 1.8 is 72 minutes. Make a හදන්නවාට 1 hour and 12 minutes වලට වැඩිය ගන්න එපා. That's number one, point number one, right? Time allocation is key, right? This is 1 hour, 12 minutes. Okay, right. So let's just say this is 1 hour. අපි පැයක් කියලා හිතමුකෝ, right? Then මේ පැය ඒ කියන්නේ 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock ඔයා මේක හදලා ඉවර ගන්න. Even if you are not able to finish it off at 1 hour mark, go to the second part, right? Don't stick around in section A for too long. MCQ එකක් තියෙනවා කියලා හිතන්න හදනවා ඒ answers එන්නෙම නැහැ. Get rid of it. 1 hour is the time I am giving you for this, right? So make sure you have this in mind. And then when you look at these questions, Buddha, these are, I wouldn't say challenging. These are the stuff that are in the syllabus that we have discussed in length in the class, right? So out of these questions, what I wanted to show is, Buddha, the fact that, for example, if you take this fertilizer question, right? So for product C, they are asking the price relative of brand fertilizer, right? The price relative කියන එක අපි class එකේ කරා. We study that as part of those 16 index numbers. But it's not something we target for. We cannot target. Next time it can be one of any of those 16 items, right? So that's why you need to have some sort of a practice in doing MCQs, right? So these questions will help you to get an understanding as to what sort of questions that they are testing in your examination, and you can see whether this is actually doable, right? I didn't see any sort of challenging questions per se, but if there are any, like I'm in the vLearning chats, I'm available at your disposal, guys. You have my number. Today also I sent a message to that chat about the delay in starting the session, right? Just get in touch with me. I can help you guys out. Could be any question, right? Your calculator troubles, any areas that you don't feel comfortable with your syllabus, any uh, quick support, I should be able to provide it to you, right? So leading up to the exam, just bother me as much as possible. And this is all the analysis that we can do for your business, mathematics, and statistics session, right? So I hope my sessions are valuable for you. And I hope now you have that confidence that you can get through this exam. And in all honesty, it's not bluffing. Level one is doable and it is very easy to get through, right? So follow my approach, get in touch with me, and I wish you guys all the very best for your examinations, right? Okay, so I think we have come to the end of our session. All the very best for your exams and do keep in touch with me. All right. Have a good night, everyone.